Can I intro us?
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Hello, and welcome to the Mood Pyramid. With you today, you have Emma.
This is already failing.
And with me today, we have...
Jacob Betts.
You're not supportive of my artistic choices.
Hello, and welcome to the Mood Pyramid, and today we won't go until we get some, because we're talking about Figgy Pudding. My name is Jacob Betts.
My name is Emma Scarappa.
And let's get down to it. I have literally never eaten Figgy Pudding once in my entire life.
And I ate it yesterday, but also I feel like I know about it from a lot of Charles Dickens kind of stuff. English, Anglophile stuff. I would say like my first impression of Figgy Pudding is from a version of The Christmas Carol that my sister and I would watch over and over again, and I think Sir Patrick Stewart was in it at the time.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it's like a more realism one. It's like a good one. But it might not even be like the best one. Honestly, I always think the best ones are the ones that are a little tongue in cheek. But in this one, they get the pudding out. It's all flamey and everything, and the kids are like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so what's happening in this one is this is Bob Cratchit's house. His kids are all seated around the table, and the cousin or like the sister or whoever it is there, and he's really excited about it. And so as the wife, Mrs. Bob Cratchit, anyway, as she's like getting the pudding out, I feel bad that...
I think it's Emily.
Yes, I think it is Emily Cratchit. Okay, so as Emily is getting the pudding out, she's pulling it from the fire that's in like this sack, and then and the kids are all going, pudding, 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 and then she puts it on the table, and then the cousin or sister of Bob Cratchit says, and don't forget the holly, and she places the holly on top of the pudding. And it's this small pudding. You can't see my hands right now. But it's this small, like, little pudding that would be what we would assume is for more like 3 people rather than the 10 people. But then that was more common back then, that people had reasonable desserts and not the monstrosities that we do have today that I myself have participated in.
Well, and also it's a Charles Dickens story, so no one's allowed to eat too much. No one's ever allowed to be full.
Anyway, you talk. I've talked for a while.
I think it is interesting that you brought up that she said you had to have the holly, that you can't forget the holly. Mm-hmm. That has very important symbolic meaning, apparently. There's a lot of really important symbolism behind Figgy Pudding. It has to be made with 13 ingredients, because those represent Jesus and the 12 apostles. You have to have, when you're making it, you have to have every member of the family stir it at least once, so that you all like come together as a family, and it has to be prepared with holly next to it, because that has to represent his crown of thorns. So it's a very Easter-laden dish for one we are familiarizing with Christmas. Yeah. Also, the sack that you were referring to from the movie, that is called a pudding cloth. It is how they used to make puddings. It's a big old sack. You put the cake and stuff in there and boil it till it becomes solid.
Yeah. I feel like any sort of cloth associated with food is non-existent per grata today. I like the idea of you make food with a sack or something like that, because it reminds me of stuff my mom would make, and she would actually use cloth or something. But nowadays I feel like people wouldn't use that, because we're so germophobic that any idea of using something that you don't even...
Yeah, get your sack out of my food.
Well, the idea of like using anything that could possibly have traces of something in it, like, oh no, stop that, computer, keep recording, makes me think that it's interesting that you used to use something like a sack, and nowadays we really wouldn't use it, probably because it's not very efficient and we don't like to clean stuff. And also I think there's this whole idea of germs, and like, I mean, it's a good thing nowadays that when we make meals, and especially if we're making big meals for a lot of people, I think we're starting to put less pressure on ourselves to make it perfect. And we're like, I'm just going to use reusable
The
stuff.
sack that was invented specifically for puddings.
No. What I meant to say was, I think it's good nowadays that we put less pressure on ourselves to make everything perfect. And if we're having a big meal and we're having a bunch of people over, that we'll just accept that I'm going to do catering and I'm going to use stuff that I can throw away to just make it easier on myself. I also read something else, and I don't know if you were talking to me about this last night while I was shopping. You said a lot of times the figgy pudding was not actually using figs, it was just using whatever materials you kind of had left over, like fruit materials you had left over, or maybe I read it somewhere.
Well, pretty much, yeah. Well, fig and plum pudding, both of which are okay to call Christmas pudding, figgy pudding, or plum pudding. It doesn't have to have figs or plums, because both the word fig and the word plum can be used to mean dried fruit, and it generally means raisins. So figgy pudding, in a more historical sense, probably contained mostly raisins.
It was interesting to me that this Christmas pudding is basically like, we're going to use what fruits we have and bring it together. It's such a difference in time period.
Oh my gosh, thoroughly so. This is very, very much a dish that can only exist in like medieval England, and we just sort of didn't get rid of, because it's got animal fat and dried fruit and just sort of a random array of spices and stuff that you'd find around the kitchen. This is a dish that is so thoroughly, we are serfs and don't have access to normal food.
We are the serfs with malnutrition. We don't have access to normal food. We are the serfs with early aging. No leeches can improve our mood. Well, what's interesting is that though it was so expensive for me to buy this one individual figgy pudding. I don't know if you can see it. This is like what the size of it was. It was even smaller. It was this little container. I threw the container away. I don't know if you saw all the Instagrams I sent you last night of as I was making it. But anyway, what was interesting about it was that it's so small, but that cost $13.99.
Oh yeah. I bought 2 different types, and all in all, I think it cost me about $30 for this dish that's supposed to be the cheapest thing.
Yeah. 100 years ago or more, desserts, especially for people who were poor, who were in poverty, desserts were rare, and they were something that they made with like fruits and nuts and ingredients to make this one dessert for like one day a year or once every so often. It was them grabbing scraps of stuff together, whereas nowadays we don't typically like that kind of dessert. Desserts to us is chocolate and ice cream and something baked and something big. Not much bigger than probably what people used to have, and also not as much fruit inspiration. It's more like chocolate and sugar and like cream and other stuff is considered our dessert. And in fact, I'll even say, like, as a kid, any dessert that had fruit in it, I didn't think of it as a real dessert. I thought of it as like a second place or like runner-up dessert.
It feels like a dessert that adults have. When I was a kid, any dessert that had fruit is like, okay, when you're grown up, this is the type of dessert you eat because your body can't take sugar anymore. That's what I always thought of.
Yeah, I definitely thought of anything that was like had fruit in it. I like even jellies and whatnot.
Yeah.
I always thought of that as, even like apple sauces that had actual chunks of apple in it versus like the smooth apple in it, or like...
I'm the same way. Anything that's a pure apple puree, that's like a dessert. But if it's got chunks of apple, that's gross. Or at least, as a kid.
Yeah, I feel that way about any dessert, and it's interesting that we have such an ageist view of desserts. But I guess also I was thinking, like, it's interesting nowadays that a thing that was a special thing, whereas nowadays I would say people in poverty, I'm sure they do have trouble getting food in general, but it's cheaper to get stuff with sugar in it, to get dessert or something like that. So it's almost like, I don't blame them. I think it's good that like every person, no matter where we are in society, can have dessert. But it's interesting that it's become more of a staple. More of something that you have every day.
Dessert in general?
Yeah, dessert in general is something you have every day versus something you have once a week. I mean, I'm trying to change that for myself, but like as a kid, I would have expected to have dessert every day, or
Really?
like at least every few days. Like it.
Maybe there's just difference in how we were brought up. I never really thought of dessert as something you had every
really?
day. Dessert was something that was like a birthday thing, or hey, we've got family over thing. Otherwise, like, we're not going to bother with
Like
dessert.
you never had a cookie after dinner or something?
My mom didn't really make cookies unless there was a reason
I mean,
for them.
my mom didn't make cookies either, but...
Interesting. I want to take a stab at what figgy pudding even is.
Okay.
Because it is so folksy, and there's so much of like, here's what this is... Or it differs so much by household almost.
Yeah.
Because I did some research on this, and I tried to figure out what the 13 ingredients are, because like I said earlier, it has to have 13 ingredients, but I couldn't find anywhere that would tell me what the 13 ingredients are. I tracked it down to this book called A Collection of Above 300 Receipts in Cookery, Physic, and Surgery, which was an English cookery book by Mary Kettleby, first published in 1714 by Richard Wilkin.
Ooh.
It has so many recipes and stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this was apparently the first place where figgy pudding was standardized. Here's the entire recipe. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Recipe for an excellent plum pudding. Take 1 pound of suet, shred very small and sifted, 1 pound of raisins, stoned, 4 spoonfuls of flour, and 4 spoonfuls of sugar, 5 eggs, but 3 whites. Beat the eggs with a little salt, tie it up with cloth, and boil it for 4 hours at least. That is the standardized recipe for plum pudding. But let's go ahead and count the ingredients in that. Suet, raisins, flour, sugar, eggs, egg whites, and salt. So even if you were to separate eggs and egg whites into 2 different ingredients, the most liberal number you can come up with for this recipe is 7 ingredients.
Well, here's what, on my little thing here, it says, the very first thing it says is vine fruits. Do you think, like, maybe you're meant to use 6 other vine fruits?
I ended up finding another recipe that I thought came closer because it was re-standardized in the 19th century. And this recipe ended up having suet, brown sugar, raisins, currants, candied orange peel, eggs, breadcrumbs, nutmeg, cloves, allspice, and just general alcohol, which comes closer, but that's still not 13.
Were there different kinds of nuts?
I think maybe? Here's the best I can get. 1.5 cups of brown sugar, softened butter, 6 large eggs, 1 cup of breadcrumbs, 2 cups plain flour, salt, nutmeg and other mixed spices, and a good dash of Parisian essence, and bicarbonate
What
of
is
soda.
Parisian essence?
I don't know, but it sounds sexy. Half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda dissolved in a cup of cold, strong tea. That has 8 ingredients, but if you count each one of the eggs as a separate ingredient, it does come out to 13, which I imagine as a medieval family, you would count each egg separately because that's the kind of weird, stupid stuff that they do.
Wait. Don't you think they're just trying to be careful about how many eggs they use? Because they probably ate less than we did.
I mean, probably, but also I'm just going to say that medieval families didn't count the same way we do.
What do you mean? Like...
Numbers and letters and stuff is weird for them. Have you ever read any really old play or really old thing? Like this... Everything's different. Everything's different and everything's stupid. Like, they make... all of their S's are F's for some reason. I don't get it.
Well, maybe we're F's are meant to be S's.
No,
Our
I say
S's
we're
are meant
right
to be
because
F's.
ours is more standardized.
You should tell me your fun fact right now.
Oliver Cromwell had figgy pudding banned when he took over England. He also banned Yule logs, carol singing, and nativity scenes because he deemed them too Catholic and or too pagan.
Wow. What a buzzkill.
Yeah, he didn't like Christmas. I believe he was upseated when 3 ghosts tried to teach him the meaning of it.
How long did James Cromwell reign for?
Wait, I'm not gonna let you just slip by on that one.
What?
You said James Cromwell.
Oh, wait.
James Cromwell's an actor.
Yeah, wait. Who was it? Is it Christopher Cromwell?
Oliver Cromwell.
What's his name? Oliver
James
Cromwell.
Cromwell's the guy from Bane.
I know. That's why I thought they had the same names. I really did. I thought they were the same. No, it's not that I thought they were the same person. I'm like, oh, they're just one of those people who have the same name. Like James Watt. Like James Watt is a very common name among at least 2 historical people and my grandfather. So.
Really? There's another James Watt.
Yeah, his name's James Watt. And so whenever I hear like, oh, James Watt invented this, or James Watt was this religious figure, I'm like, yeah, he was.
Huh.
My grandfather.
But Oliver Cromwell took over England, Scotland, and Ireland in 1653.
When did he die? Or when did he stop being Oliver Cromwell?
He was thrown out of office 1658.
Oh, so he's only around for 5 years? Okay, well, 5 years is long for, like, medieval people. That can be, like, half their life. So I imagine half your life without figgy pudding or any sort of nice Christmassy stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that must have been really boring. Like, I imagine medieval times to have been boring already, but then add to it that you can't do any small Christmassy stuff. That makes me sad.
Well, Christmas as we know it didn't really exist that much prior to A Christmas Carol. A lot of that is actually invented by Charles Dickens. Or at least not really invented, but rather given an emphasis that it previously did not have.
Really?
Yeah, he was the guy that basically said, hey, all of this stuff that you celebrate means a whole lot more than you are letting it mean.
Oh my gosh, so Charles Dickens, who is very, like, oh man, this is interesting. It's interesting to me that Charles Dickens and all the stuff he wrote, it was very much against saying poverty is bad and being rich is good. Like, all of his stuff is about how you shouldn't judge a book by its how much money it makes, and like it's basically saying having all this stuff does not make you happy. And there are examples of that in Little Dorrit and in this, and I feel like in Great Expectations. And yet he did all this stuff for Christmas and made us say, oh, Christmas matters more. And now Christmas is very much associated with abundance. And
yeah. Well, would it make you feel better if I told you he did it to sell books? He didn't do it for the love of Christmas. He did it to sell books.
Yeah. But, oh man, this makes me sad. He just, despises capitalism in his books, and then goes ahead and uses capitalism to sell his books, which I don't even know if he.
You can't really control
stories.
The system you're in.
No, that's
it's
true.
like that. It's like that
true.
web comic. Have you ever seen that web comic of the poor peasant woman who's carrying a big bundle of sticks, and she goes, "Ugh, we should improve society somewhat." And this guy pops out of a well and just goes, and yet you are a part of society. Hypocrite much?
No, wait. I think that's different. I think someone can be a part of society, want it to change, and not benefit from it. I feel like Charles Dickens was a part of society, benefited from it, and chose not to change it, but chose to preach against changing it. Or preach for changing it.
Okay, I knew that. You have a point. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, viewers. You're going to get a cold-eating figgy pudding Jacob Betts today.
Oh, God, it's all raisins. It's just a giant pile of raisins in here.
Is that the Walker's one or the Tiptree one?
This is the World Market 6 months matured Christmas pudding. which is interesting
Ooh.
why it's 6 months matured, because it is also explicitly non-alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, why the hell would you bother maturing something without alcohol? But apparently it does give it time to let the fruit flavors settle or whatever.
Makes sense now why it's so expensive.
Because it's got to sit and mature.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny little cannonball. Yeah. Yeah, and then I also got the Walker's Luxury Rich Fruit Pudding, which that is weird. Luxury Rich Fruit Pudding. Like we were saying earlier, this is meant for poor families to put their shit together. Or can I say shit? Are we swearing on this podcast? We never really made that up.
We did in the very first episode. Like, in the very first 10 seconds, I say, is this our intro? And you say, this is our intro. And I was like, are you sure? And you were like, fuck it. And then that's our intro, is you saying, fuck it. So, we're swearing. I'll assume it's okay, but maybe, I don't know, we're not on iTunes yet, so maybe when we're on iTunes. Oh, we might have to say, like, at the beginning.
Tag.
Yeah, we might have to give an explicit tag and say, this is adults having an adult conversation. So there's going to be adult language.
Yeah, this is adults having adult conversations about figgy pudding and making fun of each other. Okay, so what should I start in with? The World Market 6 months matured or the Walker's Luxury Rich?
Do the Walker's one.
The Walker's one looks like it has actual animal fat in it, so that might be good. Because the World Market one has vegetable fat, but does Walker's have animal fat?
This one said it was suitable for vegetarians. So, as you're eating, should I talk to you about my experience of trying to make it? Or should I wait?
No, go right ahead. Eat away. I mean, I'll probably interrupt if I have, like, a really visceral reaction. But, I mean, I imagine it won't be that bad.
I really tried to... That just looks like a gelatin mess.
Jesus, it tastes like the California raisins killed their families and put them in, like, a garbage compactor.
Aww.
Oh, Jesus.
R.I.P. R.I.P. for us to eat. I actually tried really hard to
It tastes like when Fantine dies in Les Mis. It tastes like that emotion.
That's weird. Mine just tastes like... Mine tasted like sponge. And
No,
like
it tastes like being fired from a job. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. It just tastes gross.
No, keep eating. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to talk about my experience.
I want to see if the World Market one is any different.
You need to... Wait. You need to drink some water in between.
Alright, I'll go get some water.
Okay, you need to cleanse your palate. Watching Jacob pouring some water. I'm assuming he has a little spigot, and that's what causes him to be able to get his water out of the fridge. He doesn't use a jug. He doesn't use a sink. He uses a spigot. This is so exciting. It's going towards the mouth. Oh, it's in the mouth.
This one's better, but they're both gross. I was like, I like that this one has more orange in it. The orange adds a lot.
Like,
but it's basically just a cannonball made out of raisins.
Yeah. I'm actually a big fan of, like, orange and chocolate. Orange on chocolate or as part of, like, a chocolate dessert, I'm really a huge fan of.
Yeah. Have you ever had a Terry's chocolate orange?
No.
They're delicious.
But I assume I'll like it. Yeah.
A Terry's chocolate orange is this orange-flavored chocolate ball that's shaped like an orange. And when you get it, you whack it on the counter and it splits it open. So you can have all these little chocolate orange slices. It's delicious and fun, and I love them. I have them every year. I made one yesterday. Well, okay, I whacked it open yesterday. It's weird saying I made it. Terry made it.
Who's Terry?
I don't know, the guy who makes chocolate oranges.
But you whacked it open.
Yeah, I did all the dirty work. Is it weird that it's kind of growing on me?
No.
Like, every bite kind of makes me like it a little more.
Maybe that's how we're supposed to, like, eat food, is that our food is supposed to a little bit grow on us. I feel like if the first taste is enough, then what's the point of eating? Because in economics, it's supposed to say the more you have of something, the less that you value it. Does that make sense? Like,
I'm not sure how that relates to food.
Okay, well, Mr. T, my stepfather, and my economics teacher, my AP economics teacher, would do this thing where you would he would have everyone bring in donuts, and he said you can bring in one donut or you can bring in many donuts. And it's supposed to be this lesson where the more donuts that you have, the less value that you have for the donuts. So I think I brought in one donut. In fact, I think he brought in the donut for me because I said, hey, I don't have a donut for tomorrow. Can you bring me a donut? And anyway, I'm supposed to value the donuts less as I move on. But I will say the kids who had those little mini donuts that they got at like gas stations versus the kids who got donuts at Bueller's probably did not value their one mini donut more than a kid who had two big Bueller's donuts, because those mini donuts are gross.
I like those mini donuts.
Well, good for you. You will never be disappointed.
When I have to give them away in my AP economics class.
No.
By the way, do you have the assignment for next week?
For next week? Like...
For next week's AP assignment?
AP assignment? Definitely.
Yeah.
AP economics? Yes. I'm supposed to watch Aaron Brockovich and get some sort of lesson from it.
Is that an actual assignment?
We watched Aaron Brockovich in class. And what's interesting is this is actually the second time in my high school that I watched Aaron Brockovich. We watched it first for chemistry, where my chemistry teacher kept, like, fast-forwarding through the sex scenes and also fast-forwarding through all the bad words.
What?
And, yeah, like, any bad words, you just try to fast-forward through it.
So she just wrote them down and was like, all right, and 2 seconds, 2 seconds.
Or
2
I
seconds.
think she watched it enough. Yeah, it was like she would fast-forward it through it or something, or mute it. I don't know. I think she fast-forwarded through it instead of even muting it. And my mom
That's so
had
much
to do
work.
that. I know. My mom had to do that for a lot of French movies. Well, she didn't do it with the language, but like any nude scenes or really inappropriate scenes, she tried to like mute it or like cover it up.
Zut alors.
Yeah. Je suis... nous sommes... I don't know. There's a word for agree, and I can't think of it. But nous sommes agréés. That's not a real word. Nous sommes the same. We agree.
Moi aussi.
I could have just said
I don't speak French
moi aussi.
very well.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. Zut
Does
alors.
that work?
What?
Would moi aussi work there?
To say I agree?
Yeah.
Or me too?
Yeah. Does it work
I
for that, or is
think
the
so.
context different?
I think so. I'll have to check with my mom. She's the French teacher.
Speaking of French and raisins, my understanding, maybe you or your mom know more, well, definitely your mom knows better than I do on this one. She's the French teacher. But my understanding of raisin is that we call them raisins because transporting them from France to England would make them dry out. And since the French word for grape is...
Raison.
Is raisin, yeah.
Yeah.
That the only type of grape you'd have in England would be dried grapes, so they just called them raisins because that's what they thought they were.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that the word grape is not like, I don't know, that we came up with our own word for what it originally was.
No.
Anyway, I do want to talk about my experience with my making figgy pudding. You did not see
You don't
the
wanna- I'm sorry, so you don't want to... I bet you were really looking forward to editing out the last 20 minutes.
No, I don't mind.
Half of it was a stupid joke about AP classes.
I feel like this is whatever. Food brings out community, and then we get to talk about stuff like AP class and how. Anyway, no, what I meant to say about Aaron Brockovich in economics is that Mr. T did, he trusted us, and he was like, I'm not going to fast forward. There's no point in our fast forwarding through this. So he did not fast forward through the bad words part. So my experience making figgy pudding, I picked this up at a delicatessen, and like a fancy delicatessen, and it came in like a plastic container, and on the plastic container it said you can either microwave this or you can steam it in a basin, or basin steam it. And I had to look that up.
Or a sack.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a sack, okay? Because I was not bequeathed a sack in my dowry. My parents don't love me. They did not give me a sack as I started my new life as a woman. Anyway, so what I did is I had to take this... You know what? I'm going to go find the plastic cup that I threw away, and I'm going to show you what I did because you didn't look at the Instagram pictures I sent you.
Okay.
Give me just 1 second. Edit this out, obviously.
In my defense, I couldn't look at the pictures she sent me because she sent me over the Instagram's DM thing, and my phone wasn't letting me open them up. I couldn't download them. I probably could have downloaded them when I got home, but by the time I got home, I'd forgotten she sent them.
I'm coming back!
Hey, here's some fun facts about Figgy Pudding. King George I was known as the Pudding King because he demanded Figgy Pudding be served at his Christmas. Now you show me one person who doesn't want to be called the Pudding King, and I'll show you a liar. Hi, Emma.
I think I even recorded myself. I recorded myself making this. Anyway, so it came in this box, as you can see, but our viewers or listeners cannot. And it came with this. However, it was just all white, and it had this little thing here, this little thing on the front, and it said, steaming. For best results, steam in the basin for approximately 30 minutes. Take care that water does not enter the pudding. So I had no steaming ingredient, like no way to really steam it. I know that there's a way to steam it, and like I could have used a mesh thing. So what I ended up doing is I took my tea kettle that had like a lid part on top. I put water in the tea kettle, and then I found a string from an old lanyard, and I used like lighting tape or like spike mark tape. I used spike tape from Denison University.
You still have that?
Yeah.
Dang.
I've stolen a lot of spike tape. I wrapped it around and had to tape it, and then over the and I had to make this little like hook thing, loop thing, and then I had it like suspended over the tea kettle and had to like, so that it could like sit right in that hole, and the tea kettle would like steam it up. Mm-hmm. But then eventually that was slipping, and I could tell that the steam was taking the spike tape off, and so I got like a slotted spoon, and I put the spotted spoon on it to like hold it kind of while it was also being suspended. And then
Jesus, Emily Cratchit, that's so much work.
I know, but I don't have a microwave, so it's what I had to do. I care about this podcast, obviously. Did you just microwave both of yours?
Yeah, I just microwaved them before we started today.
Well, good for your 21st century ass.
It's my science oven.
Your science oven?
My science oven.
Let me see this science oven. Like, how is that any different from another microwave? Why is it a science oven?
Oh, it's not any different from a normal microwave. Science oven is what Jennifer Lawrence's character calls a microwave in the movie American Hustle. You know what this figgy pudding would be really good with?
Coffee.
Whipped cream. It needs whipped cream real bad.
I think more of a mascarpone cream.
Oh yeah, it just needs some cream, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. I also, though, I didn't like it. I eventually tried it after all that work and 30 minutes steaming it. I didn't like it. I kind of expected it. I thought, oh, it's going to be kind of chocolatey and it's going to be kind of cakey, and it really wasn't. It was just like a bunch of fruit all sponged together.
Yeah, it's a cannonball made out of raisins.
And I felt guilty for not liking it, because I thought, well, I'm just a part of society now I'm so hooked on sugar that I'm so used to having dessert in a very specific way, rather than this fruit, non-dessert, fake dessert.
A very important aspect of this is also that raisins are gross. They're like the worst thing we've ever decided was food. Grapes are delicious. Raisins are terrible. The only good thing raisins ever gave us was Raisinets. I like Raisinets, but like we had to coat them in chocolate to make them even vaguely palatable.
Do you feel like raisins were always, if you ever had raisins, they were just a disappointment because they either were not grapes or they were a replacement for dessert?
I feel like they try to weasel their way into dessert way too frequently.
Yeah.
Like oatmeal raisin cookies.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell are that? Go fuck yourself, oatmeal raisin cookies. Get the hell out of here. Get some chocolate chips in you.
I
like
basically
a real
hate
cookie.
any dessert that does have raisins in it. So I don't think I was ever going to like this. Although I do like trail mix that has raisins in it. But they have to have like M&Ms as well. And peanuts. And almonds.
Yeah, see, the only thing that ever makes raisins work is if you have chocolate with them at the same time. And at that point, it's just like, well, why am I not just eating chocolate?
Maybe we were trying to convince ourselves we're healthy.
I guess, but if that's the case, then just eat healthy. Just because something's gross doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah, that's true. This was very gross.
Yeah, plenty of things are healthy and not gross. Blueberries, strawberries. I like Brussels sprouts.
I know.
Those are perfectly healthy. and they're, by my opinion, not gross. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time with stuffing, where, like, you kind of just get used to things you don't like, and you start convincing yourself that must mean they're healthy.
Interesting. Something that we don't like is unhealthy.
No, that you convince yourself that it's healthy just because you don't like it. You ever do that?
That is how I feel about stuffing, and that is how I feel about this, is that it was, oh, well, this must be better because it uses fruit. And it really doesn't.
And the answer is no.
No, dried fruit really is not that healthy for you. Any kind of fruit that's not raw usually is not super healthy.
I like a lot of dried fruit. Like, if you just packed a bunch of dried apricots together and fed me that, like a cannonball full of dried apricots, I think it'd be really good. Figgy pudding has this weird undertone that is inescapable that comes with all raisins all the time. Because all raisins have this weird undertone of, like, I don't know, sin baked into them. And it just tastes like you're doing something bad, but not in the fun way.
I don't know if I have any more. Okay, the thing I'm kind of sad about is that, this is supposed to be our quote-unquote Christmas episode, and it's felt very un-Christmassy so far.
It's neither holly nor is it jolly. And with every bite of this Christmas pudding, I get a little less jolly.
Stop eating it.
It's in front of me. I'm American. I can't not.
You also paid $30 for it.
That's true.
I actually tried eating it while watching The West Wing last night.
Oh, very American.
What's like the other very Englandy Christmas food out there? Is it like trite or triple or trifle?
I don't know. I didn't do any research on that.
And like cooked goose, I think is very Englandy.
Throw that name again. Trifle?
Trifle? Trifle. F-L-E.
Holy shit, this looks delicious. Trifle is an English... Let's let it load here so I can just read the full thing instead of the summary. Trifle, in English cuisine, is a dessert made with fruit, a thin layer of sponge fingers soaked in sherry or another fortified wine, and custard. It can be topped with whipped cream. The fruit and sponge layers may be suspended in fruit-flavored jelly, and these ingredients are usually arranged to produce 3 or 4 layers. The contents of a trifle are highly variable. Many varieties exist, some foregoing fruit entirely, and instead using ingredients such as chocolate, coffee, or vanilla. It's like tiramisu and parfait had a baby, and it looks really delicious.
That does sound good. Why didn't we do an episode on trifle?
Because I didn't know it existed until 5 minutes ago.
Okay. Well, you know what we need to do? Now we need to record the rest of our lives until we actually try trifle, and then we'll be like, oh, yay!
We can just edit out the second part.
Yeah. Oh, yay. Let's just do... Fuck you, Figgy Pudding. We're gonna have trifle, motherfuckers.
Figgy Pudding tastes so bad. I want to step into the world of We Wish You a Merry Christmas and punch every single person who's singing We Won't Go Until We Get Some. Because they just need to fucking leave.
Hey.
You are demanding something no one should want.
You're being mean to older, dead people who this is just what they had to make because they couldn't afford chocolate or other really good stuff. And so they're like, let's make something and let's celebrate ourselves. So you were being very rude to the Cratchits right now.
They could have done better. In fact, actually, I would prefer having no dessert over having this dessert.
I'm with you there. I'm very much with you there.
Like, guys, just because dessert is a thing doesn't mean you have to make it. Don't bother making it unless it tastes good. This is not worth the calories. Hey, Charles Dickens. I've got some great expectations for you.
What?
I expect you to go fuck yourself.
Oh, well, that's not very nice. Haha, I'm going to make a lot of money off of this.
Cricket on the hearth. How about you throw this fucking pudding into the hearth? Oliver Twist, all of your fucking shit is terrible. I hate you, Charles Dickens.
Do you just not like Charles Dickens?
No, I like Charles Dickens just fine, but I don't like Figgy Pudding, and I need him to know about it.
What if he never actually wrote about Figgy Pudding, but it was the screenplay or screenwriter for that particular Charles Dickens adaptation of A Christmas Carol that wrote about Figgy Pudding, and now it's not really Charles's fault, but...
You know, I'm going to blame Charles Dickens for every single thing I've ever seen in any version of A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
That means that Charles Dickens invented Figgy Pudding, that Charles Dickens invented Minister's Cat, that Charles Dickens invented every Muppet.
Okay, what would you Figgy Pudding, then?
What would I Figgy Pudding?
What would you figgy pudding? If you could figgy pudding a new thing, what would you figgy pudding?
Wait. We have a structure.
Oh.
First time, last time.
First time was last night. Last time was last night.
First time is now and last time is now, and hopefully it'll friggin' stay that way.
What's the rest of our structure?
I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So you were saying what would you figgy pudding?
Yeah, what would you figgy pudding?
I don't even know what that means. Like, what would I put inside a figgy pudding, or what would I pack together like a cannonball?
Okay. I feel like these ingredients might be good in some other context.
No, they wouldn't. It's mostly raisins, and raisins are bad in every context.
Okay, well, let's say it's without raisins, it's without everything else.
Okay, so it's just suet and candied orange peel and some spices and breadcrumbs?
It's not bad.
Is that what you... No, I mean, is that what you're asking?
No, let's cannonball it. I like cannonballing stuff better.
Okay, so what would you cannonball?
No, I have an idea. What would you cannonball, steam for 30 minutes in a pudding sack, and then serve to your family to share for 13 minutes. Or not 13 minutes, among 13 people.
Exactly this meal, but instead of raisins, it's clumps of cinnamon and sugar.
You know what I would figgy pudding?
What?
I would figgy pudding like orange and very dark chocolate. So like figgy pudding, orange and very dark chocolate with a little bit of something to give it like a little crunch. I don't know. What little thing crunches? Okay, orange, pieces of orange and orange peel and dark chocolate and a little bit of walnuts, and that I would figgy pudding.
Oh, that does sound good.
Yeah.
You throw in like some crackly rice, like it's a Nestle Crunch bar.
No, that's like what the walnuts are.
They kind of fulfill that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to fulfill, is that little crunch part. And then I would share it with 13 people, and we would all have just a little bit of it, and we would add a little like basil leaf on top or something. Maybe not basil.
Cool.
Maybe a mint.
Symbolically, it should be holly.
Fine. I'll put a little bit of holly on there. I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna find holly, because it's, again, one of those things that is probably really expensive to get now, but, like, wasn't expensive 100 years ago.
One last symbolic thing on this. You're supposed to make figgy pudding 25 weeks after Trinity. So the 25th Sunday after Trinity, which is also the week before Advent. So 5 weeks before Christmas, which this year would be November 25th.
Wow. So you're not even supposed to make it at Christmas.
You make it the week before Advent, and then you age it until Christmas. That way the alcohol can set in.
I like the idea of you have to prepare something for 5 weeks. I think we don't have that kind of thing where we let something rest for 5 weeks and, like, create its life, create itself. I don't know, there's something about letting a dish sit in itself for a while, become what it needs to come, like aging stuff. Do you think there's a pop electric version of Bring Me Some Figgy Pudding, oh bring me some figgy pudding? Oh.
I think you should run that by Mannheim Steamroller. If anybody's done that, it'd be them. It's called pudding, just because that means dessert in England, so it doesn't actually have to be like a custardy thing like we're used to. Contemporary recipes often add figs, but that seems to be just because, you know, it's called figgy pudding and we feel wrong for not doing it. It's, the last week before Advent, the one where you make it, where you make figgy pudding to... I keep calling it Fitty Pudding, like 50 Cent made it. The week where you make figgy pudding is called Stir Up Sunday, because the act of making figgy pudding involves stirring, and it combines with the Book of Common Prayer, which for that day reads, Stir up, we beseech thee, O Lord, the wills of thy faithful people, that they, plenteously bringing forth the fruit of good works, may of thee be plenteously rewarded through Jesus Christ our Lord. It has a sort of double entendre meaning for Stir Up Sunday.
Do you feel like, I don't know, do you feel like we should have had a more emotional reaction to figgy pudding?
No, nobody's served figgy pudding in 200 years. It tastes like garbage, so we all stopped eating it. Neither of us had a version that involved brandy, which I imagine you're supposed to have, but even though I love brandy, I don't think it would have added to this at all. Maybe it would have. If anybody knows of a really good figgy pudding recipe or anything and wants to send it to us, just say like, hey, this will change your minds. Go right ahead. You're welcome to give it a shot, but no. I don't have a very emotional reaction to this outside of it's gross. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to also thank Ali Vagrinsik for the wonderful icon art she has made for us. You can see it currently here on our SoundCloud website.
It's also on our Facebook page and our Twitter account, which is our Facebook page is just the Mood Pyramid, or the Mood Pyramid. And our Twitter page is at the Mood Pyramid. Okay.
Fantastic. This was a really, really chill episode. The last one was so exciting.
I guess we're really helping people fall asleep with dreams of hot garbage in their mind dancing around. There's the reason that there's no Figgy Pudding dance in the Nutcracker.